So thank you very much, Matteo Lucchetti, for participating to this interview. I would like you to start talking about Visible. Let's talk about Visible.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. And Visible, yes. Visible is a project a research project in contemporary art that deals with the socially engaged artistic practices that Judith, Wielander and I have started within the framework of Pistoletto Foundation in 2010 with the support and continuous sponsorship of Fondazione Zegna. We started with the idea that we wanted to redefine a little bit what social engagement in art could mean. So getting a bit away from certain labels like public art, participatory art, community-based, but not to deny them, not to deny the meaning they had and the importance they represented within the discourse that was developed around the art in the social sphere, in the public domain. But we wanted rather to expand a little bit how the idea of social engagement could actually have different interpretations, different discourses cohabiting within the same space, depending a lot on the context where this engagement from artists would start. So we wanted the project to describe a scene that was global in certain ways, but also by doing that, understanding the specificities of the locales, of the context in which every practice comes from which every practice comes from. So the first step was to create this book, Visible, where art leaves its own field and becomes visible as part of something else, where we asked 9 curators all over the world, so from Gavin Kober from Johannesburg to Fan from China, or Raimundas Malasauskas from Lithuania, and so on, to define through the choice of 5 practices what social engagement meant for them. So really trying to have different versions already from which to start. And from that point, we then discussed about how we wanted not only to create a discursive framework for these practices, but we wanted actually to do something that could support them, that could also allow these practices that most of the times are developed outside of the traditional ways of production of art, of contemporary art. And how many times, these artists that engage in these kind of projects, they lack of the funding for these projects to continue, to evolve, to have a greater impact in the context in which have been developed. So we thought that we wanted to create a production award, an award that could not only support one practice to a prize, to a money prize of 25,000 euros, but we also wanted to give visibility, of course, and the name says it, to a lot of other practices by trying to connect them, to bring them to the same space and gain not only visibility, but also enter within a space of confrontation where people from a certain place, like, Cali, for example, the first winner of the award was Arena Producciones, developing a festival of performance in Cali for more than 15 years, could get to know that, for example, in Malaysia, there was somebody else using the format of the festival to address specific topics of disfranchisement within society, of disconnection of certain parts of the town from the main centers, and like lacking of structures for artists in different contexts to get together. So the festival became for 2 different collectives, 2 different projects, very far one from the other, but through Visible they could meet, they could get to know about each other. Mm-hmm. So this was the idea of the network, of course, was there. And on the other hand, another thing that we always discussed since the very beginning was the idea that if you do an award, a prize around social engagement, you cannot engage yourself in rethinking about the format through which you do it. So you cannot take a traditional format of an award and do it around social engagement in art. So we had, since the very beginning, the idea of creating the jury as a public event, where actually these practices, the discussion around the assessment of the practices could become a collective learning process, where people taking part to the jury could learn about these practices, could really, this confrontation I was mentioning before could really happen within the jury itself. And the first edition, we weren't ready to do it, simply. So we took the traditional format, and we had a jury with Oppi and Weser, with Ute Metabauer, with Ansuri Kobris, and of course Michelangelo Pistoletto from Pistoletto Foundation, and Andrea Zegna from Fondazione Zegna. And we did the first edition in a more traditional way, let's say. But from the second onwards, we were ready enough, solid enough to give a try with the public one. So we engaged as a chairman of the jury Charles Esche and the Van Abbe Museum, of course. And we developed with him really a new model for the jury to happen. And we wanted it to be inside of the Van Abbe Museum, because we thought that these kind of practices, most of the times, for different reasons, they don't find so much space within museum context for many reasons. Sometimes because the representation of what the project is doing within a specific context can result not so appealing, not so interesting, not so fascinating, not so good for, let's say, to attract audiences. In other cases, you know, the reproduction or like the creating a storytelling out of that work costs a lot of money, and it's maybe a pity for the work to focus on how to fit within a museum, or, you know, this is a big discourse, I think. How do you bring these kind of practices within the exhibition format? So we thought maybe the best way to create this bridge in between the art system in its most, let's say, acknowledged space, like the museum, this contemporary art center, and these practices happening within the social domain, maybe the best way is to really do the jury within the museum. So with Charles, we really worked on making the jury as a public event, where not only the audience could intervene within the conversation among the jurors, but could also actually vote for the winner. So the idea is that you spend a whole day together, you assess every single practice, you go in the depth of the project, every project one after the other. And then as an audience, you also become part of this process of assessing. And maybe as an audience member, you have different backgrounds that could enter in the assessment phase in order to shed new light on certain aspects that maybe an expert, a curator, an artist are not considering in that specific moment. So that's the second edition of the Visible Award that brought us to award the Silent University by Ahmet Ogut. And now we are working with Chris Dercon and Francesco Manacorda, respectively the director of Tate Modern in London and the director of Tate Liverpool, in Liverpool, of course. And we are working to make this third edition of the public jury even more exciting, I think, and even more public. In fact, I can tell you the news is that we had a positive answer from the City Council of Liverpool, so the jury will take place within the City Council of the city.
Cool.
And of course, Tate Liverpool and Tate Modern are, of course, part of the whole organization process. So it's just, the idea that also came from the discussion with Francesco of how it would have been interesting to really involve the structure where a daily parliament takes place, and to transfer this idea of a temporary parliament for Visible into the space of the City Council, where daily conversation, daily decision-making processes are happening on a daily basis. So we will use the structure of the City Council, of course, but the news there is also that we will have a series of experts that we will invite, artists, curators, theoreticians, but we also, and mainly they will come from the UK scene, because we're really trying to engage as much as possible different institutions in the UK that have been working on this kind of practices for a long time, from the showroom to situations, passing by a lot of other non-profit or theoreticians that have, like Andrea Phillips and so on. But the idea is that we were going to have also other kind of experts that are actually users of this kind of projects. For example, we are trying to involve now participants from To Up to Down Home Bake, the project that Jean Van Eswijk has developed within the Liverpool Biennial in 2013. It started. And well, it actually started much before, but 2013 was the time when it came out publicly. And or other users of projects that were produced by Situations in Bristol or other institutions that are producing this kind of artworks, this kind of projects. So the idea is really to already embed within the parliament the idea that the idea of expertise has to be broken down to the fact that expertise doesn't come only from the university, doesn't come only from the museum, doesn't come only from the art system, but the expertise come also from the other fields of society where these kind of projects are creating an impact or are creating a dialogical space through the art, through the project itself. Mm-hmm. So this is what is going to happen this year on the 4th week of October. The dates are going to be released soon about the jury, and also we will collaborate with the Liverpool Biennial that is organizing a 2-day seminar around art in the public space as a topic. And then we're also collaborating with the International Network through the John Moore University, and they will organize a day of workshop. So the idea is really to create, together with the jury, with the local scene of Liverpool, with the institutions that are doing amazing things on a daily basis, to really try to match our different programs and create a program of 3-4 days where we can really become a place where people that are interested in social engaged artistic practices should come, I think.